Okay, I think that's working now. Just had some technical difficulties. Had a blackout last night and I had some settings saved. So I thought I had them saved. So I'm just playing catch up for a moment or so. Afternoon, SG boy. Hope it's not too hot where you are. It's starting to pick up a little bit where I am. I'm just playing catch up here since I had some settings saved the other day when I was getting things ready, and then we had a blackout. And it turns out I didn't have all the settings saved properly. But it's just going to be me doing some sketching for some Dungeons and Debt stuff, since I've need to get some more of that done. I was contemplating some new character design options, but I'm not quite there yet. Oh yeah, you just got, yeah, it's 100 degrees where I am. It's a little much for me. Oops. Window. Dang it! I thought I had another window open and I shut it down. Ugh. But yeah, it's very hot today here in Montana. Yesterday was 102. So I'm just happy it's not. So I need to redo a few things on Black's design, Red's design, and then I got the first monster that I'm working on. And the other day when I was experimenting with some other ideas, I just watched a short video on caricatures and exaggerations and things like that. And then I went to study just a little bit of my old favorite artist for inspiration. And it wasn't quite the inspiration I wanted, but it was inspiration nonetheless, because I'm still looking for that right amount of cartooniness in my work. Gotta go to my YouTube Go Live settings because I accidentally shut down that window. Helps me keep an eye on what's going on. Here we are. Hey, I can actually see what's going on now. Well, I can see some of what's going on now anyways. Okay. So first things first, I should adjust my settings here just a little bit, because this is not, I've got this set for animation real quick, because I'm trying to find, I think I may have found a little bit more of the middle ground I was after. Oh, you weirdo. Come on, Flash. Thank you. Jeez. So there is a middle ground for cartoons I was taking a look at. And I think I got it. But I'm not too sure, because the first problem is style. And so I've got my set character body type for right now anyways. Too thick. Thank you. So I'm trying to stick with style, even though this is all still new. And I'm still not sure what's going to make it and what's going to get changed as time goes on. But I've got a rough idea. Need to go to my Go Live settings here just to make sure. Thank you. Come on. There. Yeah, I had the wrong settings for this. Okay, now I can get back to work. So I'm still debating on the head shape being square, even though I like that. Because when I was redesigning stuff last night for experimental purposes, this is how I was doing shoulders before for the characters. And I found I kinda gotta change that just a little bit. There we go. Get myself the right sentence. Oops. But when I was experimenting last night, I was remembering, oh wait, I used to have an older style which still had the small shoulders. And I was trying to keep that triangular theme going on here with the basic body type for the female characters. My problem with this is I had used to have some issues with the body proportions, since my mind kept trying to correct things and say, no, you're doing it wrong, it needs to be more realistic. And I'm not after realism. So yeah, this was my crude template. But I can do a little bit better than this. So this was my very crude template that I was sketching out last night just to try to remember some of this old art style that I used to have. And it's not bad. Just needs there's a certain tuniness to it, and somebody had recommended to go a little bit more toony, so I'm guessing more toony would be something like this. The more chibi art style. I'm just drawing that to show off the example. And while I kind of like it, it cuts down on certain details. So I had an interesting idea the other night. At least for a little bit of simplicity. So in terms of Red's design, I made two changes to it that were a little bit more noticeable. So I got rid of a little bit of the triangular nature of her dress. At least the dress shape. Come on, there we go. So I kept the little bit of that right there. Correct that. And then the next thing that I was adjusting for her was the arms. So I had drawn the last two and her shoulders were straight out like that. And I don't think I really want that. I'm getting an odd contradiction mentally when I do that. So if it keeps me from seeing stuff clearly in my head, I have to bail on it. So now I've got the more slouching shoulders. And because I'm going to do the lazy animator trick, I'm just going to cannibalize half of what's here. That way I only have to draw it once, and then I can correct things as I go. And this is where things were starting to get a little weirder last night, in contrast to how I do things normally, because this is a much more of a chibi character art style. I wanted to keep just a little bit of the definition in the shoulders, but I wanted to keep a little bit of a looseness in the appendages. Because the other style that I've been working on, I like it. It's just simplicity, simplicity, simplicity. And because I've got a few other things that I can do that I'm not too sure how well it's going to work out. Yeah, it's based off an old 1990s color scheme that I used to see. I mean, not 1990s, it was very early 2000s. This was a detail and color scheme I used to see in animation. And I don't know how well it's going to work. But the first thing is, for body proportions, everything has to be made a little exaggerated. A little bit more exaggerated, I should say. So, stubbier appendages. At least for right now, because I could just do the traditional duck hands and feet that I normally do, where everything is kind of like that. But because I want to catch more of that toony aspect of everything, I think this will work. So, and I was doing a very crude character design for Red last night and found one bit of experimentation that I liked with her hair, because I kind of want her to have some bangs still in the front. It's a very nice secondary animation, and I can also use it to cover up her ears a little bit, so it's in some ways it's more detail, in other ways it's less detail. So I'm hearing stuff get dropped downstairs now. But first things first, I've got to make everything kind of stubby. So that means the arms length has to be adjusted slightly. And I want to keep some of the mass in Red's forearms, because you could make out she had biceps and everything else in the last tune, and I didn't quite want to lose all that stuff. So you got to keep a little bit of definition there. So that's step one. Step two is the hard part, because once you start slimming everything down like this, because I am going to redraw this a few times. I've got to build up muscle memory for drawing this stuff. So this is my current body type template for the female characters, all two of them that I have right now. And I've got a male character outside of the collector that I'm going to sort out pretty soon also. I'm trying to look over your basic D&D characters. So I've got a thief, I've got a warrior. I'm guessing I will probably need an archer of some kind, but there's also, barbarians. I guess Red is a little bit more of a rogue than a warrior, but still, I won't nitpick on that too much, because it has been a long time since I've played D&D. But for Red and for Black, this is the variant of the new body type, and it still needs to be condensed a little bit, just because it's toony. So in order to properly condense this, I've got to do two things left. And so the first thing I have to do to sort of sort this out is finish the head shape, which is, I've got a couple choices on that. I can have it be a little bit more rounded, but still keep the squareness, which I kind of like. So it would be something a little bit more like that. The problem is it's a little bit more proportional. Archer is an official class now. Oh, interesting. But you can see the head is too small. I'm hearing more banging downstairs. Give me one moment. I need to go make sure my mom isn't breaking too much stuff. She's doing some decorating right now, so I will be back in one moment. Okay, I'm back. Found out what's going on. My father is drilling a hole into the wall. He's got the power drill out, and the house we live in is a little funny. It's got some odd design choices because the house is over 100 years old, which is impressive. I think it's like 130 years old. The problem is this was a Victorian era house at some point, and in order to keep the structure of everything, they didn't really have they didn't have sheetrock walls. They had this weird light form of cement that was used to reinforce things. So while there are sheetrock walls now, underneath like 90% of them is this thin layer of like concrete or cement or something. And so when you have to drill a hole in the wall, you got to get through about an inch of this stuff, and it's pretty crazy. It's when we first were trying to set up stuff in the house, we thought something was wrong because everything wasn't working. Every time we kept trying to drill something, because we've got photos that got to go on the wall and things like that. So that was not the most pleasant discovery. So, but it's nice that everything, it's what 130-year-old house. Everything works. So, what I was doing for the character design idea was, instead of keeping everything completely square, I wanted to keep just a little bit of softness. So I guess it would be just a little bit more like this. What else do I got to do? Correct that side of the jaw. See, that's right, it's going to be a little bit more like this, just to get some cheek definition on the characters. So I could get just a little bit more of that that weird stylization, and then once the head is done, which the head is about to be done in just a moment, so I just straighten this out a little bit like that, and then it's not completely square. Even though I did enjoy that in the last tune, this takes a little less time. So this is the easy part. And then I was studying the old chibi art designs and remembered you can do other things for stylization where you actually remove the chin section right there, and then while it looks like it does look like there's that weird gap there, you get around it by doing this. And it's kind of an odd stylistic choice, and I'm not 100% sold on it, but I like it. So the next thing to do is adjust the arms. Thank you. Because of the odd body type of the more chibi style characters that you see, the arms are always kind of at an angle, and I'm not drawn straight very well. Thank you. Because I was trying to do this last night and I wasn't having as much luck as I am now, because it's kind of a contradiction to some of the art styles that I've always done in the past. So I'm learning. Gotta find out what works for me. So first step is the head, second step is the upper body, and as you can see, as opposed to doing the more triangular breasts on a female character, I'm doing something more traditional. And come on, we want more like that. Because I've just been going back and studying old stuff, old arts that I used to like, and trying to get the right ideas off of them. Because this is taking time, and I'm trying to save just a little bit of time if I can. But I don't have the muscle memory built up just yet for drawing like this. Because, yeah, I'm starting to tear at it and nitpick just a little too much. There. Come on, Flash. Stop being difficult. And last but not least, the hand. So, stubby little digits. There. If I had more time to fuss and nitpick over stuff, I would. But I don't, so I'm not going to. Double check and make sure my window is a little bit more centered. So I'm trying to be a little bit better about keeping my stuff centered on my streams, because I get lost in what I'm doing and I don't always catch it. So there we go. There. Okay, and now we have something a little sturdier. I know you can see body proportions don't quite match just yet. This is at the point where I'm just now starting to exaggerate a little bit more with the characters and their body types, because everything is still reasonably proportional right now. And I have to actually start breaking the proportion a little bit. So I guess the next step is the legs, just a little bit of condensing things. Because I don't always like drawing stuff proportional, just because I've been having more fun making stuff toony. But I have to do everything a certain way first. Oh, got to do everything a certain way first before. Basically, I'm setting the rules before I start breaking them. So you can see here, everything is starting to take shape. This would be a doable body type for the character. But now that I've gotten to this point, I have to do another revision on this frame. Because now is the part where everything gets really awkward. Because this is where the rules have to start seriously getting bent. Because this will be my body type template for the characters, at least the female characters. The male characters, I have to do a separate template for them that's still going to be a little similar. But this is just going to be for my first two female characters. Because red and black's designs have to be, I guess, a little bit of a contrast. And I haven't figured out what the contrast is going to be just yet. Because, I mean, yeah, so far I've got one dressed up kind of like a pirate, and I've got one dressed more like a warrior. But I could do, I could make things a little more stylized. But either way, this more chibi art style, where everything is much more exaggerated, is going to have to be how things go. So yeah, you can see the even stubbier hands there. And there we go. So I haven't quite sorted this out, but this is pretty good. I kind of want to shrink things up a little bit more and make the torso just a little bit slimmer. And this makes everything else just a little bit more proportioned, but it's getting there. The problem with characters' body types and proportions is if you're doing something more serious, you have to be more stringent. But even if you're doing stuff that's more toony like this, there are certain rules you gotta abide by, and you gotta keep some of that proportion there. You can never bounce too far from it. So right now, this is about what I want, and in order to get that, I just got to adjust the angle. So you can see everything is mostly proportional now. I'll just correct this since this is just my template, and then the neck isn't going to work like that, so we just correct that by doing this. Okay, and then here's that, and I will most likely end up adjusting things further as I continue down the road of character designs. But for right now, this works. I will just stretch out the shoulders a little bit so they match that. So here is the template for the body type. It's still not perfect because I'm adjusting things as I go. I want to have the legs be a little bit slimmer down here. Just to keep the more toony side of things going. And then last but not least, the head. And since I've had more people say how much the other style I was using is a little bit more like Roblox, I will just do this for right now, where it's still got some of what I was doing previously. Whoa. There we go. Right. I just can keep enough of what I had previously, but I've still got a little something else going on here. Because as I adjust things with this design some more, I will probably make the arms and the legs a little bit more slender. Okay. So we've gone from that to this. And that's not bad. I think I'm going to do one last revision of this, just because I've actually got a little something to show off now for what the body type is. I think I can do a slightly better job with what I got, but I will leave it with you guys for just a moment, because now I have to go. Gotta go use the restroom real quick. One moment here, let me put on some music so you guys don't have to listen to my fan play while I'm down the hall. Come on. Okay, I'll be back in a moment. Okay. Well, I'm back. I'm back. The cat threw up in the restroom floor right when I'm about finished. Ugh, goofy cat. I know she didn't mean to do it, but blech. Okay, so we've got designs A. We've got body types A and B. Oh, yes, I hear you, M. So, here's what we'll do for... This would have been the more stylized approach to how I was going to handle things the other night when I was thinking things over. And part of me still likes this. But I'm not quite there yet because I've got I got to build up muscle memory to make this really work. There. So this is me still keeping some edges on some things, but it may not look like a whole lot now. But when I was playing around with this last night, and just to see if I could create a sort of a theme in terms of character designs, I found I could do this, which is very small, but it's actually an interesting look, and I'm not quite sure if I want to do that yet. But let's see, I gotta cut this section here off because this would be where her armpits are. Yep, come on. Wrong button. Thank you. Because there's a lot of different ways you can design a character and keep some kind of a weird theme to their look. And so I was looking at this last night where I'd realized I had essentially created this almost odd this odd little design here where it's nothing extreme, it's very simple. But if I get rid of this, everything looks like it's connected to each other, and then the last thing I would have just added in was this. And I don't know why, but the simplicity of this was something I was really finding myself being attracted to last night. But it contradicts a lot of what I have here. And it's primarily the arms. Still trying to get Red's arm proportions to work properly. Because now there is a stubbiness to some of the limbs that I have to maintain, and then there's also a proportion to that stubbiness I have to maintain, which is also awkward because I spent about 40 minutes trying some various ideas on this last night while I was listening to a video on, it was some kind of a mystery. Flash, stop it. It was some kind of a mystery that I was listening to on YouTube. I think it was by Aki Dearest. Oh, that's right. It was Aki Dearest was discussing the Shoko Asahara Shinrikyo saga from Japan, which I was a little kid when that happened. That was what, 1994, I think? Okay, I wasn't that little. I was 14. But as I was listening to that, I was playing around with this design and realizing the odd proportions for everything here that I had, where it was kind of coming together and kind of working. And then I realized the first contradiction I have is the hips stick out a little too much, and the waist needs to come inward just a little bit. So I'm still trying to keep some femininity around the character's proportions and make them still recognizable as female characters. And then this was my first solution that I did, and I was kind of on the fence for it because it's a little much, because now I've got this weird contradiction where the arms overlap like this, and I tried to compensate it by doing a little bit with the shoulders. Because unfortunately, this is where nitpicking always goes wrong. Because you have to keep your proportions going on stuff. Because I still want to keep things like the hips. I like to keep them connected to the edge of the attire on her bustier right there. And then down here, I'm not sure if I want to have the dress just be like this now, where it's a little bit more rounded, or if I keep the triangle shape that I had previously. Because there's lots of variants on this I could do. And because I keep looking at the idea for simplicity, but also keeping some kind of a design theme for each character, I keep coming back to that. So this is more or less what I was running into last night, where I can still keep some of what I had, at least from the original design that I had with Red, and then I'm keeping a little bit of the secondary design, which the idea was she was poor, so she didn't have the fancy suit of armor or the fancy sword or the fancy shield anymore. But everything changed, unfortunately, so I can't do that. But what I can get away with still works, because then I just have some overlapping leather from her gloves on the wrist right there. And then, oops, flash, come on, don't be difficult. And then we have her body at one angle, mostly designed. Because I want to keep the slimness of everything down, I just do that. Even though I had so many interesting ideas I was going to do. I was originally going to give Red a third design where, as she keeps losing, she gets poorer and poorer, and just has less nice clothing, or her clothing is more worn down. And then I was going to have one tune where it was basically her standing at the edge of a road with a sign that says "We'll quest for food," things like that. And I had to toss all those out. And I can use a little bit of it, sure, but I am still sad that I had to give up some of those ideas. And I hear dogs woofing downstairs. I'm wondering if we got that delivery today. Supposed to get a little freezer that my sister sent, which is good because the freezer and the fridge we have is currently like, I don't know, a foot by 8 inches, because it's a very old fridge from the 1960s that my mom really liked, and while we've had it for a long time, it's finally starting to die on us. And it's a shame when you lose something that you've had for a long time. So last but not least, so you can see the thickness in the ankles. I actually have to get rid of that, because in terms of what I'm doing for stylization, I kind of realized having more slender appendages was kind of funny, just because it seems like a contradiction to the rest of the character design. And I don't know why, but it feels right. So if it feels right as a character design choice, I let it be. So, okay. So this is more the body type that I'm looking at, with the exception of I need to do this to the ankles. Some of this is still a carryover from the earlier art style I had. And some of this goes back to my Joy art style, which is starting to get influenced by all these changes I'm making, so I have to be careful. Because I've got June's comic almost finished, and I've been having trouble drawing characters. I've been realizing I keep attempting to draw them more like what I've been drawing for Dungeons in Debt, and that's not the art style I want for the job. So the other thing I've got here, since you can see everything is nice, but it's still just a little, the legs are a little bit too proportional. Just correct that with this. And what do you think? I'm kind of tempted to lower the dress a little bit more, just because stylistically I could do this as a shape now, where it doesn't make too much difference. On the other hand, it's a little less appendage I have to draw for action scenes. But it's simple stuff. I keep looking for simple stuff that isn't going to cause me too much grief. Because every so often I have these days when I try and draw stuff and I get lost in every single little tiny detail that there is. And that makes everything worse. I'm just going to call this file sketch, because I have to redraw this umpteen many times over. And see, make things crooked, just a little bit there and there, good. Oh wait, that's right, this is what I wanted to do. That's right. This was the stylistic thing I did last night, where I had everything line up more. Will there be a split down the middle? Otherwise, thinking it practically might be hard for a hero to move around and hover around it more. I think I can get away with just having the garment itself stretch around like spandex. Just because it's very simple. I mean, yeah, I was contemplating that when I was doing the design again last night, and I thought, well, it's a cartoon. I can just have it stretch around like it's spandex. And then last not least is the head, which this is always the tricky part, because part of me wants to still draw heads like this, which I still like. You know, I'm not going to lie, but I can't. It's a little bit too much of a contradiction to everything else. And then also, I got to do this. Since this is now the body template for red, the head template would have to be a little bit like this. So I need to have the head over it be oh so wide, but I want to adjust my shape. But yeah, normally I would just put like a slit there or something like that. But I'm just not going to fuss over it. So this is the other option for the head design. Oh, no. I'll go back to being a lazy animator. Well, lazy artist. I love copy and paste. I hate it sometimes, but I love it more. And there we go. So this was more or less the design I was playing around with last night. I still kind of like having the dress stick out proportionally like that, because then it tones down on the hips a little bit. But I don't know. What do you guys think? Should I stick with the original dress design, or should I keep the slightly more hippie version right here? Go ahead and leave a comment in the chat. I'll read it. See, this is also what I was going to do with her eyes now. It's a little bit more cat-shaped, but only slightly. Otherwise, I could just use the straighten tool and just go back to this. Hey Soko, so I'm redesigning things a little bit more, just for simplicity. Okay, SG Boy likes the older design. So I was playing around with some design issues last night that I was having while I was listening to a video from Aki Dearest regarding the Aum Shonrikyo terrorist group of Japan last night. Just because it was really hot and it was taking forever for everything to cool off in my room, so I just sat around and worked. And so I was playing around with some designs, and I realized I only like about 70% of the redesign for Red that I had. I kind of missed some of the hair that she had, so I will adjust things accordingly. But also I was looking for a few other ways to simplify things. But I needed to have a proper female body template, because my first two characters have similar designs in some ways. Because Red's got her design, Black has her design, and let's see, there we go. That's how things are supposed to be. Give Red scar, give her the nose. Eyebrows. Yeah. Flash likes to condense everything into silly shapes. Sometimes if you use the straighten tool like this, I don't want to have her eyebrows being too heavy, but I want them about like this. And then when I straighten the nose out, you can see it's going to take an egg shape, and I don't want that either. Because I want it to be that little crooked and off center, and then for the mouth, we've got that, and then lastly the eye. Yeah, I started coming up with this art style when I was doing the Scoot in the last Toon Fortress tune I made. I guess it's kind of been carrying over. There we go. And because I like having eyebrows that shape, just because this, when they get scared or whatnot, I've got this little area here to manipulate. Since your eyebrows do have a tendency to change shape based on how you move them, I like to have that shape going, because that shape is pretty flexible. So the first antagonist I've got for red is a dragon, and I'm trying to think of what dragon I want it to be in terms of color. I was kind of thinking of a black dragon, but then I remembered, wait a minute, they spit acid. I don't want acid. I'd rather, so I'll just do an orangish reddish dragon, even though I know how immense they are in the D&D world and things like that. Okay. So just add some color there. So since you mentioned you kind of prefer the old dress design, and this is still the proportions on this are still a little bit, I'll say not quite as toony as I was after. Let me get her head going. Hey, King James. Sorry I haven't drawn your D&D character. I just have had a real rotten rotten 5 weeks now. Everything changed on the 20. Yeah, it was June 22nd. That was what. Taking your father into the ER and hearing from them, hearing that, excuse me, not the ER, taking your father in and then hearing them say he's got kidney failure, we have to check him into the ER now, was not good. That was probably, I'd say that's probably one of the worst moments in my life I've had, which is, I guess, makes me pretty spoiled because there are a lot of worse things that I could have happen. So, well, yeah, this is different since this is a terminal form of cancer that has now he's classified as disabled, and we're trying to get his Social Security status sorted out because there's no way in hell we can afford the medical bill that we got from his 3-week stay in the hospital. But then there's other things that happened, like when I had to take him back to the hospital last week because he had a fever, because his immune system is kind of not there right now because of the chemo that he's on. So it has been a real hell of a last few weeks, and I keep hoping that we'll get some good luck. Which, I mean, it's lousy to say. In some ways, him going back to the hospital last week probably wasn't entirely a bad thing, even though the oncologist's office really screwed us up because we had to wait 17 hours for them to respond to the initial phone call when it was time for him to go to the ER. And then when that nurse called up, she was making excuses, which made everything worse. And then we had to wait a further day for them to actually make contact with the oncologist's office because for some reason, after my mom told that nurse off, even though my mom was pretty restrained for my mom, the fact that the local hospital could not reach the oncologist's office for a whole day is pretty concerning, to say the least. And I don't know what the hell was going on with all that. But yeah, we're just trying to gotta get my father's Social Security, Medicare set up because he's 64, and you automatically get that at 65, or if you're disabled before 65. But we've got to have them take care of this insane hospital bill, 7 figures, and we don't got the green for that. But my responsibilities around the house have changed an awful lot because I'm a caretaker for my father, and while he's still pretty independent, he cannot drive anymore. His memory is kind of foggy because of the chemotherapy and some of the medication he's on. He can't lift anything over, like, I'm going to say he's limited to 10 pounds or under because his skeletal structure has been compromised by what the cancer did to his body. And then his bone marrow is down to 20%. And this is what happens when you get multiple myeloma. It's a nasty cancer. I'm more worried about my father than myself because, well, one, I'm still angry. My father has done everything right in his life, stood by his family, worked 50 plus hours when we were growing up to stay in the dumpy former drug house that the bank foreclosed on that we lived in when I was growing up. And he's always done everything right. And then there's no cure for this. There's treatment, so he's, even though it's a death sentence, it's not an instant death sentence. But I do find myself getting a little bit more paranoid over things like when I hear him coughing, or if I hear him groaning in pain over something because his spine and his hips have been kind of damaged. The way this cancer works is it messes up your bone marrow and then causes your body to start ejecting calcium from the bones, and that's what keeps your bones strong. And so his kidneys got flooded with plasma and calcium. So this is a lot of shit, and I'm just doing my best to keep things going here. The one thing I've had to learn, and I'm still working on this, is being positive, because that's what everybody who's been a cancer patient has said. You cannot be glass is half empty, and even though that's a battle on its own, it's for your own sanity. So, I mean, I've been a caretaker before. But it's different when it's your folks. It's a lot more stressful in some ways, but at the very least, I'm here to take care of things. Because my folks, let's see, my mom has dementia, as I've said before, and it seems to have plateaued a fair amount. And now it's showing now she's getting hit by a few signs of it, where it's starting to pick up a little bit more. Where she's having trouble, last year she's had trouble getting words out and stuff like that, and trying to get memories going. And we were able to bypass some of that by having her play Bejeweled. You look for games that are good for cognitive skills to help supplement you, and it slows everything down just a little bit. But she had another one of those moments today, and this was a weird one, where I had to take her to the store. She said she didn't want to go to the store, she wanted to go to the Dollar Tree, and she didn't tell me, so I just, I'm actually pulling up to the store when it happens. I just said, when are you going to tell me about that? And then she said no, she wanted to go to the Dollar Tree. So then I said, okay, what do you need to get to the Dollar Tree? And she paused and said, I don't know. Do you know what I needed to get from the Dollar Tree? And I did remember what she needed to get from the Dollar Tree, but only after we left the Dollar Tree. So this is all awkward stuff, and I'm doing my best to try and look on the light side of it, even though I don't like to. But I don't get you don't really get a choice, because you gotta be positive, even when it really burns you out. Which I had one of those moments not too long ago. Found out I gotta go back to Oregon and get the rest of the stuff out of the storage unit. My brother had volunteered to do that, and then all of a sudden he has unfortunately stopped mentioning it, and then he just went on a vacation over to Seattle, Washington. And I know it's over there. He's got some in-laws over there. And I have a feeling my little brother has become henpecked. Because we know his wife and her family don't like us, because they are, I think they're progressive liberals, and we are not. We are mostly centrists. Although I have noticed I've been leaning a little bit more towards the right the past year, but I'm never going to be I'll never be able to actually be a conservative or anything like that. But they very much they're upper class liberals, and we are lower class centrists. So I guess oil and water. But it sounds like I'm going to have to drive another truck carrying all the furniture that we couldn't take with us last year. But the difference is, last year when I did this, I was with my father and we split up the drive in between us. Because driving those big, those 20-foot trucks, that is a pain in the butt. It is really, it's really draining. And some of it's because you can only go 60. Yeah, politics is a dangerous game now. And it was what, 2014 that the mantra had to be, it's either my way or the highway, where everybody was coming to the conclusion that if you don't agree with everything I say, then I don't want to talk to you. And I don't even remember what side is the one that started pushing this, because I know it was both sides for a while. But it is a mess, and we don't need that crap in the U.S. We don't need that crap anywhere. But the lines got drawn. I don't know what idiot thought it was a good idea. But that's where we are now. That's why everybody hates each other. That's why people stop talking. It's divide and conquer. I'm gonna lower Red's arms a little bit there. But everybody has been comfortable with doing this for years now. Oh, yeah, that might help. I gotta do this. If you vote for Trump, unfriend me. Yeah, Trump was. I know I've been seeing the left say for years that the Trump was the worst thing that has happened to America forever. No, the worst thing that happened to America was when the idea came down to that politicians were pushed at the forefront as being paragons of virtue. And they're not. They're human garbage. Nobody's a hero. I don't think any politicians have ever really been heroes, even though they will do heroic things from time to time, but they're all just clowns. They're there to rile you up, for people who are looking to them to be examples of virtue. That's a real bad idea. If you want to throw money at somebody for making you feel good and saying all the right stuff and everything, go find a stripper. At least the stripper will talk to you for a moment and give you the time of day. But yeah, everybody stopped. The one thing from Trump's presidency I've always resented was how insane the media went. There'll never be anything as a perfect politician, you're right. But the media crossed the line when they made every single little tiny thing they could about Trump and how bad he was, and for the most part, I didn't think he was any worse than your average politician. He was definitely a lot more vocal than politicians are, because most of them will spend hours talking and say nothing, and he actually seemed to balance some of that out and actually say stuff, even though it wasn't always stuff that we wanted to hear. Because we don't always need to hear the fake news quotes or things like that. But you also don't want to give the other side a free pass, and unfortunately that's what everybody did, and everything got more bipartisan, and we didn't need that. And now we're at the point now where now Trump's gone, and the media has lost all their support, because now nobody wants to sit there and listen to them do this stuff, because they don't have Trump to hate anymore. I don't even know if he's gonna run again. I wouldn't be surprised. But I'm never gonna vote for the DNC again. I don't usually vote in presidential elections because of how angry I am at both sides for being just awful and having opportunities to actually do some good and never taking them. Because unfortunately, oh, straight up, that's how you lost your $3,000 stimulus check. You're lucky. I still haven't gotten 600 of that from. Oh, he's gonna run for 2024. Well, at this point, I might just vote for him for a laugh, just because we've had how many months of Biden and everything has gotten worse. And my real concern isn't the I'm seeing food shortages. We've got 3 countries across the world now who've gone bankrupt. But yeah, I'm unimpressed with the GOP. What is it? There's a perfect term for what the GOP has become now, and that is limp dick. And unfortunately, the DNC, while they are also limp dick, the DNC is focused. They know what they want to do, and unfortunately, what they want to do is contrary to what I like. I like to be left alone. I like to be able to do my things. I don't want the government bothering me about art or getting involved in movies or things like that, and they have been pushing for that a lot more. He was going to start his own. Yeah, that's right. He did say he was going to do that. Well, we'll see. You know, everything has gone crazy, and unfortunately, the media has made everybody stop asking questions in a lot of cases. Okay, well, this design is working a little bit better. The hips still got to come out some more, damn it. I really liked getting that triangular, that little triangular theme there, but it's not going to work. I've got to add just that little bit of a slope here. Yeah, well, unfortunately, from what I'm hearing, it sounds like that little that tax plan that Biden has is going to start penalizing people who make under $200,000 a year. I shouldn't be surprised, but I don't know. Are they trying to just lose everybody's support? Because I know things are bad when I start seeing the Hispanic community and the black community start bailing on the DNC. And I'm seeing a lot of that. My problem is the RNC just isn't much better. A friend of mine actually, who's from the Netherlands, made an interesting observation. And she said that in the United States we don't have 2 parties anymore. We don't even have a left anymore. We have 2 variations of the right. And she said, when was the last time you saw the DNC focusing on workers' rights and not taking corporate money and just doing the traditional stuff that they were known for like 70 years? And I started thinking, thought, yeah, no, they're kind of just doing the same. They're kind of doing the same things. And she pointed out they've become a corporate party just the same way that the right and the Republicans have always been. They're just a different flavor of it. And that was actually pretty depressing, because now that makes sense. That would mean that we don't have a left or a right. We've got the right and a diet soda version of the right that are both just corporate stooges. Oh yeah. Well, I'm not surprised, James. I've been seeing I've been seeing more Mexicans talking about being done with the DNC, which I'm not surprised because I don't know if the current DNC has realized this, but the fact that they seem to be kind of anti-family, and they're very big on having people let other people raise your children, like the state schools and things like that. Not everybody likes that, especially people who are actually pretty conservative in a lot of ways. But that's just me noticing things. What was it over in Texas? I just read that for the first time in 130 years, there's one district that has always voted blue, and they voted red this time. And the only reason the media I didn't see talk about it the way they usually do is because they lost to a Mexican woman who ran as a Republican. The only thing I'm seeing now is I'm seeing weird articles talking about, oh my God, the minorities aren't voting blue anymore. What's going on? It's pretty obvious what's going on. All you have to do is take a look. It's very unfortunate because I don't like any of this stuff happening. I just want people to do their own thing. But unfortunately, that's gone now. You can't do your own thing anymore. You have to do what other people want you to do. And that's really lame. I remember the first time I felt something was wrong in my sophomore year when my teacher was talking about how silly Trump was and showing off students CNN. CNN is a joke. They didn't used to be. There used to be a congressional law that died. It was a protection. It said that newspapers and the media had to prevent stuff that was mostly unbiased. So they had to push what's known as objective journalism, where you talk about the story and the facts within. You don't speculate. You don't present a bias. And it was sometime after 9/11 that protection was essentially Congress voted to veto it, and it had been around since like the 1960s. Given how dirty the CIA and the FBI have been, and how intrusive all these weirdos are with the media these days, I'm guessing there's just a lot more money in keeping people angry. But I don't trust the news. I don't want to say that because I want to be able to read the news and go, okay, that's what's going on. But I don't think we get to have that anymore. I think the news is, what was it? They've pretty much taken the approach that South Park did, where they showed cable companies on that one episode. There was an episode where all the kids in town's parents all start getting turned on by those awful crime shows where they recreate the murders, and it's all the true crime shows where they explain why this husband murdered his wife, or why this wife killed her boyfriend so her husband wouldn't find out. And everything is over dramatized. It's very silly, and everybody's parents is watching this, and they're getting off to it, and it's driving the kids crazy. So they go to the cable company and ask them to remove the channel, and the cable company employee takes his shirt off and starts rubbing his nipples again. Oh, you want me to remove the channel? Oh, let me see if I can do that. Oh, wait, no, we're the only cable company in town. Sorry, I can't do that. And the cable company is just getting off being a monopoly, and that's kind of what the media has become. And there used to be a time when the media didn't used to be like this, but the last time the media was this bad was probably 140 years ago. It was this all this crap started in like the 1880s was when we started to get yellow journalism. And yellow journalism, I forget why they called it yellow, but it was like the dumbest, most biased crap out there. It was essentially what clickbait is. Only they would come up with really stupid and weird stuff. There was like one famous reporter that I think was it William Randolph Hearst had, where it was this female reporter talking about flying a balloon across the U.S. and seeing dinosaurs. And to prove that she saw dinosaurs, they had some artists do a sketch of a triceratops. And she said she saw a herd of them over Wyoming. And it's just the most ridiculous shit. And this all died out around the early 1900s, when the New York Times got bought out by the Oak family. And they, rather than put in yellow journalism, they went legit. They had objective journalism. So if there's a hit and run that happens at midnight, they wouldn't put down hit and run. Hit and run happened at midnight, blood everywhere. Was this a spurned lover? They would say no, hit and run at midnight. They'd say the status of the victim who was struck by the vehicle. And then they'd leave it, if you have any information, please contact the local police. And you just put the facts out. And we don't have that now. Now we have to have why Trump had to have 2 scoops of ice cream when everyone else got 1. Because in the world of geopolitics, it's that extra scoop of ice cream that everybody's going to be asking you questions about. Frickin' idiots. And we're stuck with these clowns. I'm laughing because I know that everybody's ratings have gone in the crap or some. Not just because Trump left office, but because people are tired of seeing stuff that's there to make you angry. And I'm still abiding to my theory that the angrier you get, the more commercial products you will purchase. And that's why social media and media in general exist, to make you angry. Okay. That's Red's design. I've got one last thing to do. So this is her facing one way. I had made up my mind I wanted to keep some of her hair. I'm just not sure how I want to handle it. Yeah, the ice cream thing was really rotten. Yeah, work with me, Red. I'm not sure if it's death knell or death kneel, but I just know that people are tired. I think I'm going to keep that as a bandana on Red's head. So, okay. That's one way. And then I will do black. I think it's death knell, but don't quote me. See, oh, that's right. But everybody's tired of this crap, and I don't blame them, because it's not going to get any better until people stop watching it entirely. I know. Then there's always that reminds me of the old Mark Twain comment: if you read the news, you're misinformed. If you don't read the news, you're uninformed. I'm not sure what's better at this point, or if anything is better. Okay, black. Let's try and get your arm sorted out. Oh, there isn't anything to trust. Everything has been so corporatized right now. And you can thank all those weirdo billionaires that have been just trying to take everything, and I don't know what's going on with that. I know the Great Reset is not a rumor, and I know it's not a rumor because the people who were going to push for that don't shut up about it. Hell, they've got their merchandise on it. You can go get your book to read about what's going to happen that they've written. It's just, it's like we're seeing history repeat itself. And somebody took a look at what happened over 100 years ago around the end of World War I, where the entire world got carved up. And it was carved up in a specific way that we got World War I, we got World War II, and then we had all kinds of other wars, because when the world was carved up at the end of World War I, the creeps who did it made sure that it was done in a specific way to keep certain countries from ever regaining power again. That's why they chopped up the Middle East and put groups together that hated each other. That's why Germany got basically peace raped. I guess is a good term. And unfortunately, that led to resentment, and then that led to the Nazi parties rising. And they made everything worse by doing all this stuff. And I'm seeing a repeat now. It's just there was no war this time. This time, it's all the billionaires getting together and saying, okay, do we really need to pay other people to rule the world for us? Let's just take a combination of feudalism and communism and take on over. Yep. The really creepy thing about communism I found out, there was a British guy who did a book about communism and its history in the 1980s, and he pointed out how the Red Army was able to defeat the White Army. And the Red Army was able to get in there and defeat the White Army because they got help. They got help from the multimillionaires from the U.S. That piece of human garbage, J.P. Morgan, he was the one that basically stole AC and DC electricity from both Edison and Tesla. He's the one, with Rockefeller, they paid to have Lenin and Trotsky and the Red Army given supplies to go take on the the White Army. The White Army was the White Army was there for the Tsar and the Russian royal family. But all these banking scumbags got together, and they have records of this, where they sent the U.S. Army there to teach the Red Army how to use the firearms. They sent them all in there to kill the Tsar and take over. And they didn't stop there. After they took out the Tsar, anybody who had a certain amount of land or farm, if you had just a little bit more than they thought you should have, they'd take you out in the back and they'd shoot you. And then they did the same thing to the factory owners. And after they did all this, Russia spent like a decade starving and just barely getting by, because they killed all the factory owners, they killed all the farmers that they could, and then nobody knew how to farm, nobody knew how to run the factories, nobody knew how to do anything. And that's when these sons of bitches all came back to Russia with architects from other countries that were top of the line, and they rebuilt these factories. They showed the Russians how to make them work. They did all this stuff, and basically they boosted their economy and got communist Russia back on track. And this was when Stalin came in to take over. Because I think Lenin would have been dead about this point, but don't quote me. But all these rich motherfuckers got together and overthrew one of the world's government to see if communism would work. And I have a feeling that's essentially what's going on right now. Because even though communism doesn't work, they found a way to make it, I guess, tread water somewhat, and now they're trying to push for that. And now, except for now, it's billionaires saying, "Okay, we get to run everything now." Thought, no, you dumb sons of bitches don't even know how to wipe your own ass. Nobody in their right mind wants these people to run anything, but they've been doing weird stuff for decades. So God only knows what's going to happen with this stuff. Because we don't need feudalism, we don't need communism, we don't need whatever form of capitalism we're in right now, because I would say we've gone beyond capitalism and we are in corporatism, and we never should have gone there to begin with, but because we've had weak politicians for 40 years in the US, that's it. They've taken over. They've just given all this extra power to these corporate weirdos. And people like that get tired of running their own companies at some point and want more. I mean, you take a look at that idiot who used to run Disney, who put out his book, and then he wanted to get involved in politics, and then Disney's been getting a lot of black eyes lately, and it turns out that a lot of that stuff came from him before he left. It's so weird. But I think humanity is very sick right now. And it's unfortunate that everybody thinks the answer is to do that stupid quote from the network. It's like 4 or 5 times a year, whenever something that gets everybody riled up on Reddit pops up, you see some idiot post on Reddit the quote from the network, the scene from the network with the news anchor who's saying, "I don't know what you have to do next, but for right now you got to get mad. You got to get mad and say, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take it anymore." And he builds himself up an audience, but everybody misses the context. If I remember correctly, that scene in the movie, the reason he did that character was getting fired, and it was a desperate attempt to get for him to keep his job and build up some kind of support. And it just so happened he did something that took off, and so the network kept him. But then when his ratings were dropping at the end of the movie, the network actually hires an assassin to kill him on national TV. they rather than cancel his talk show, they have him assassinated on national TV just for the ratings. I don't have a Discord server. I got a Discord account. I haven't really given much consideration to a server just because I haven't been active on Discord in weeks. And I haven't been active just because I'm so busy trying to keep things afloat here at home. But I can get you my Discord address. 1 second. What is my Discord name? There we go. Here's my username. It's not very creative, but I think it'll do. One of these days, I might get a Discord server set up, but I'm not there enough to really make it worth anyone's time, because I bounce through one or two servers for like a minute at a time just to clear most of the notifications that I get, because like 99% of the notifications aren't for me. But I've got there we go, I just added you, but I've got to get better at social media and stuff, I suppose, because that is the way the wind is blowing. I'm gonna have to do something about Red's hair, because I just remembered I can't give her the bandana. And I can't give red the bandana because black has the bandana. Okay. At least black's design is a little bit easier to do. So, okay. I'm gonna save there. Ah, crap. I've got to go run down. I think that's going to have to be the end of the stream today. I've got to go run down and drop a letter off before the post office closes. Dang it. I thought I took it. Sorry, I thought I took care of it earlier. I did not take care of it earlier. I've got to go take care of that now. Because they close in just a few minutes. That's my father, and it's my father's disability paperwork for the state. Ugh. Okay, guys, I will do another stream in a day or so. Tomorrow I have to take my father down to the hospital and get his blood work done, because that's his weekly thing. And Thursday, everything should be back to normal. We'll see. If I'm going to do another stream tomorrow, I will let you guys know. So thanks for hanging out with me, and hopefully I can get back to animating soon. Okay. Take it easy, everyone.